You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. Whether it's for food, fuel, drinks, or snacks, about half the U.S. population shops at a convenience store every day. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
Welcome to Convenience Matters. My name is Jeff Lenard with NACS.
And I'm Carolyn Schnare with NACS also.
And Carolyn, we want to continue our conversation with author Steve Miller. He's the author of the book Uncopyable. It's a pretty good beach read. And Steve, we have some thoughts that we'd like to talk about related to how to hunt moose, related to your stores or to your expo, and also some of the things that you may not want to do in stores.
So Steve, thanks again for joining us. So we were talking, you were mentioning you got a mailer, and sometimes I got one yesterday, and I sent you a picture of it, Jeff, and it was welcome valued member to AARP. And I'm like, whoa, time out. Hold on.
What took them so long? That should have been 5 years ago.
No, Jeff, it shouldn't have, because I'm just not that old. But I was like, wow, I don't feel very valued memberish at all. I'm not even close enough to that age.
Apparently they don't have computers.
Yeah, that's it.
With mail merge.
Eyesight. So speaking of that, in your book, you do talk about really paying attention to that customer. And instead of just spitballing to valued customers, as I say with air quotes, you talk about hunting moose. Mm-hmm. Or meese. Moose? Is there plural for a moose? I don't think it is. I think it's just moose.
Being a Rocky and Bullwinkle fan, I think meese is a good term.
Call them meese, but we're hunting them in a good way, in a nice way.
Yeah, that really gets down to my definition of target marketing. That we should be very cognizant about who our market is. And I always call it it's like we dwell in a big, large forest. And so imagine that you're a hunter going into the forest. And you are hunting moose. You are not hunting any other animals in the forest. You are just hunting moose. So the point being that you're not going to go in there with a fishing rod as your weapon of choice, right? You have to have some kind of moose gun that's going to bring a moose down. You're not going in there with Oreo cookies or Hostess ding dongs as being something to attract them to you. No, you have to find moose bait. So what I mean is the number one thing to know of all is who is your customer, and what is your customer really looking for. At C stores, for example, for years it's always been just the convenience of the stores. But I would also venture to say that as the years have gone on now, where the idea of the convenience probably isn't as important today as it was before. Now it's sort of like, okay, why would they come into your store? Who are your customers? Why would they come into your store? And the experience, like I know you had a recent podcast where you talked about the people, and see, that's just it. People are probably the differentiator. So I'm going to ask myself, what would my moose want from my people? Specifically my moose, and what kind of moose bait would I need to have to bring them in, and then when they're in the store, what does a moose want? that type of thing.
And when Carolyn had mentioned, there's price pressures. That's one way to differentiate yourself, but everybody can replicate price. Competitive strategies, another thing that can be replicated, and just commoditization also can be replicated. And an example that you used in talking about something that we all know now is the drive-through. Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned that it started in the mid-'70s with McDonald's for a very different reason than it wound up today. Right. And that was a lost opportunity. They had an opening. They didn't make it their own, and now everyone has a drive-through. Yeah,
they stole the idea from banks is really what they did. The Fort Huachuca military base, the commander of the base had put some rule out that the servicemen and women could not get out of their car if they were in their fatigues when they were in the town. And the McDonald's guy was like, "Oh man, I'm going to lose a lot of money." But one day he was at the bank drive-through and he said, "Oh, if they can pass money through, I can pass food through." So that's how he got started using that. But of course, like you say, they didn't protect that asset. So now all of them use that. But it's a good example of where you get ideas. You don't get ideas in that box that I was talking about. And so when they say get out of the box, I actually say, even that is hard to understand. What does that mean, get out of the box? And I say, no, build your own box. Build your own box that has its own rules of competition, its own terminology, its own competitive strategy. Disney is a perfect example. That's why I use them as one of the big examples in my book. That Space Mountain, for example, is just a roller coaster. That's all it is. It's not even a great roller coaster. It's just a medium roller coaster. But they don't even call it a roller coaster. They said, look, we're an amusement park. Amusement parks all have roller coasters. Well, okay, we should have a roller coaster, but we can't have a roller coaster because that's the term everybody else uses. So instead, they have a flight into outer space. And then they have taken that roller coaster and they have wrapped an experience around it that is completely designed to make you think you're going into outer space, or you play along with the game of that you're going into outer space.
You don't even notice you've been in that line for like 2 hours.
No, because they make the line fun. Everything about it is there is something that makes it fun. And I remember standing in line at the Indiana Jones ride one time, and you're in line and you walk by and there's a rope hanging down from the ceiling, and there's a sign on the rope that says, "Do not pull the rope." Hello. We're pulling the rope, and you pull the rope and you hear this guy screaming. Part of the experience, rather than it's a roller coaster, which is again what Indiana Jones is.
Probably a marketing genius. I was at not me, but I was at a conference.
Oh, come on, of course you are.
Thanks.
That was so nice.
Yes. I was at a
you guys really like each other, don't you? Never mind.
So,
yes.
I was at an engineering conference, and I'm guessing this guy, just his stuff didn't show up. And all he had in his booth was a dirty spare tire with a sign. This relates to what you're talking about with the rope. And it just said, "Kick me." And so people would come into the booth and they'd kick it. And then he'd say, "Why'd you do that?" And he said, "Well, the sign told me to." Then he has a conversation.
Sure. He's able to start that conversation. I actually had a very similar situation back when I had a real job, and we were exhibiting at a trade show in New York, and my booth didn't show up. And it was a pretty big booth, and I had about 10 or 12 salespeople. And so what we did was we just put a sign in the center of the booth that just said, "Ask us where our booth is." And that everybody wanted to know where our booth was. And so they would stop and go, "Where's your booth?" "Oh, we don't know." But can I tell you about what would be in the booth if it was here? And they always said yes. So we ended up having a great show.
So speaking of that, we have a pretty big trade show.
Yes, you do.
In October every year. This year in Las Vegas, and every other year in Las Vegas. So it's timely. So we can almost say this year or next year we'll be there. Anyway,
every year, somewhere.
So we have a lot of our trade exhibitors that listen to this as well. What are some hints that they can do to make it the most, to hunt those moose, to make it the most fun booth? What are some things that maybe aren't like, here's a squishy stress ball?
Yeah, I hate that. Well, the best piece of advice I can possibly give anybody, whether it's an exhibitor or just a business person, is look at what your competition is doing and don't do that. And like, for example, at a trade show, if I walk into a trade show and I see a magician in the first aisle, I will bet you money there are more magicians on the show floor. If I walk in and there's a putting contest, I will bet you money there's a putting contest. Why is that? Because that's that box I was talking about, where exhibitors, when they're not in their booth, they're walking around looking at the other exhibitors and they're going, oh, I like that. They have a magician, and look how crowded their booth is. That's what we'll do next year, but we'll have a better magician, right? And so after a while, then you got all these magicians around, and then now they become commodities, and people aren't nearly as attracted as they would have been with just the one magician. So what I tell people to do is don't study your box. I mean, study your box just to see how you're doing, to see how you compare. You got to stay up with the competition. But if you want to get new ideas, you got to get out. You got to get outside and study aliens in other organizations and other events, other experiences. So for exhibitors, for example, at NACS, I would say to them, you want to go to CES. You want to go to the hardware show. You want to go to the the home and housewares show. That's where you're going to get ideas that will be new back at NACS. And same thing with store owners or businesses. I would say, stop studying the food industry. Stop studying the convenience industry. Go study the health industry. Go study somebody else.
Go to another country. See what they're doing over there.
Yeah,
very different.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go somewhere else that is uncomfortable for you, that you might not even have any idea what they're doing. But then you go study them and you say, okay, what are they doing to manage the customer experience? Or what are they doing to get customers to come in? How are they getting them to stay? And then go steal those ideas. I call it stealing genius.
And as part of being different, you also look at part of being uncopyable is having something that you're known for. Once you focus on it, and certainly you do that with the color orange. Yeah, everything, when you talk to Steve Miller, orange. And every time you see orange henceforth, you will think
that's
of Steve
the idea.
Miller.
The idea is you look for an anchor. I had this conversation on a podcast last week when they had call in on that one, and one of the people asked me about mascots, and I said, "Well, orange is my mascot. That's what it is. Is that I'm attaching orange to the word uncopyable, hence to the name Steve Miller, and then I do everything that I can to slam people. I kill my customers, I kill my clients, I kill my followers with orange." And with Steve. And then I also add, okay, if orange is different and I want you to be different, then I have to be different in as many ways as possible. So, I'm not a consultant, right? I'm Kelly's dad and marketing gunslinger. And, and I don't, and I'm not just married, I don't just have a wife. I have a smoking
hot wife,
that's
as you
saw. Smoking hot wife, right?
In your book.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's funny because you see, after a while, everybody starts picking up on that. And the people who follow me on the internet, I don't call them my fans or followers or anything like that. They're my BFFs. And so now, after a while, when somebody's been following, if they comment on something or they send me an email or something, they always say, "I'm one of your BFFs." Right?
Are we one of your BFFs? Just me, right?
You will be, yeah.
What's a BFF?
Jeff is still, the jury's out.
BRB.
Yeah.
OMG.
TMI.
AARP. That's enough TLAs for today.
Not LOL.
No, 3-letter acronyms.
That's TLAs.
That's what I just said.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So
I'm writing these down as fast as I possibly can.
With your orange pen.
I need something to write it down. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So a lot of times I will say, sometimes companies will say, "Well, how do we do that?" And I'd say, "Well, pick a color." Especially smaller companies. Pick a color. Like I pick orange. I don't care what you pick. I tend to say, look, don't pick blue, because blue has been that color that IBM has killed. And if I
hate when I accidentally wear my red polo shirt to Target.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And everyone's asked me where the bathroom is. I'm like, I just didn't mean it. And then I literally threw the shirt away.
Yeah.
Well, I gave it away.
So
you're not the Target lady?
Not anymore.
Oh, okay.
So you can't go to Home Depot.
That's true.
I'll tell you what. There are a couple of places I cannot go. I can't go to Oregon State University, or Tennessee or something like that.
Orange Theory Fitness. Maybe that's local.
I blend in with them, and I don't want to blend in anywhere. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the idea. Is I'm not going to do that.
So, and that's the whole idea of you are memorable. And as far as a beach read, this is a good beach read for the summer. It is perfect to take out there and learn a little bit more about business. And I think that you also have an offer to anybody that wants to see what is in this book beyond some of the stories we told.
Yeah, I really want people to read this. I've been really gratified by the reaction and the response in the marketplace to my book since it came out. Probably surprised, too. I think any author is surprised when their book does super, super well. But I do want to get it in as many people's hands as possible. Very fast read, lots of action steps in there for you to take. So here's what I always do. I always tell people, look, go buy my book. You can buy it on Amazon. I don't care where you buy it. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it at a Barnes and Noble store. You can buy it, somewhere else. But send me just forward me the receipt to my email address, which is stevemiller@theadventure.com. THEadventure.com. If you just forward me the receipt and you just say, "Hey, Steve, send me your free stuff," then I'm going to send you a access to one of my programs called Put Your Marketing on Autopilot, which is a really popular program that I sell for $197, but I'm just going to give it to you, okay, because I really want you to read my book. And so if you do that, send me an email, with the receipt, and I'll get it out to you right away.
And it's uncopyable with a Y.
Yes.
In the middle, which is something that I know your smoking hot wife was great to. I was like, I didn't mean it. It was autocorrect because it went up with an I and I just let it happen. But uncopyable with a Y. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been very enjoyable.
It's been a pleasure having you on.
I don't have a 3-letter acronym to finish up with.
Thank you for listening to Convenience Matters.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.